She doesn't say, hey, I'm a coach who specializes in helping people get over painful childhood experiences or traumas. I'm saying, put your flag in one space and own it. Start with a micro niche, because in terms of promoting your business and getting known, that's the only way you're going to start out from the crowd.
Hi, my name is Avi Arya, father of 2 girls, 6 dogs, husband to a superwoman, a streetcar racer turned hotelier, then marketer and founder of Internet Moguls.
What up, Internet Moguls?
Before we start the class, I know you have a presentation for all of us. Could you, quickly introduce yourself? Where are you from? And everything.
Okay, thank you. So I'm Trevor Emdon. I'm from the UK. So my background is not marketing. I came to marketing by a zigzag road. I'll tell you a bit more about me in the presentation, but my background is mental health and psychotherapy. And so I'm very much about mindset and what makes us tick. And that's kind of, I think, how I arrived at the video that you found, which is about micro niches and so on. So I'll put those pieces together in the presentation.
Awesome. So we're all ready to, guys, please take notes because this is going to be interesting. Over to you, Trevor.
Thank you very much. Once again, thank you all for being here. I'm going to start sharing my screen. I prepared a mind map. Right, so what I'm going to do, as you can see, the mind map's kind of split into 2 halves, the right and the left. I'm going to spend most of the time on the right. The left-hand side is about how to find these micro niches, but I really want to talk to you first about what they are and how I perceive them and why they're so important for our businesses as entrepreneurs, as coaches, consultants, whatever it is that we're doing. So let me just begin with what's a niche as compared with a market. So a niche, well, let's start with a market. A market is the big global overview of something. So here I've put as examples Fords and Bugattis. So these are in the car market, right? That's a big overall market. And if you're selling cars, there is clearly, I hope it's clear to you all, a big difference between the people who tend to buy Ford cars or family cars and that kind of thing, and the people who buy Bugattis. And I learned recently that in the last year, Ford sold just shy of, I think it was about 4 million cars, and Bugattis sold less than 200. So, and I did check it out just in case I ever come into enough money. A Bugatti in pounds, and I have no idea what it will be in your currency, I'm really sorry, but in pounds, it's about 14 million pounds, which is about 20 million US dollars. So I'll leave you to translate that into your own currencies. But so you can see they're not really expecting to sell millions of cars. However, they are both targeting the same cohort of people in the sense that these are people who want to buy cars, but a very, very different niche within them. And every market has them. Like if you think about flying, the majority of people will buy the economy seats, but some will buy business class, some will buy first class. And we know that they're much, much more expensive seats. It's the same plane, it gets you to the same place in the same amount of time. Just some people want and can afford the different classes of seats. So that again would be the first class and the business class. Those are niche markets within the travel industry and so on. So that's very broadly speaking the difference between a niche and a market. So as I just mentioned, very quickly, this is, I don't want to spend much time talking about me, but I guess you probably want to know, who is this guy? Why is he here? So as I said, my background's in psychotherapy. I trained in psychotherapy. Initially, I did it because, again, I'm not going to bore you with my life story, but my childhood was a bit of a roller coaster, and I read a lot of books in my teen years about self-help, and discovered that I was reading books, a lot of them written by psychotherapists, and they seemed to have the answers. So I kind of I was attracted to that as a career. And I found a way into it here in the UK. It wasn't an easy route, but I went in through the National Health Service, and indeed I did become a psychotherapist within that. And they actually funded me to train as well, which is quite a feat because I wouldn't do that now. And for 10 years, it was my job. I ran a team of very specialist nurses, mental health nurses. I had my own caseload, and I was teaching other mental health care professionals, doctors, nurses, health visitors, social workers, and so on, aspects of psychotherapy, family therapy. And I trained in NLP and hypnotherapy and got a diploma in that as well. So that was my background. Nothing to do with marketing. The internet didn't exist in those days either. But I have always had a passion ever since I was at school for writing. And so, and I'd been published and actually got paychecks. I got money from magazine editors in the 80s and 90s, and all to do with aspects of psychotherapy and nursing and so on. So I got the confidence to know that I was a good enough writer to write professionally. And so when the internet came along, I just thought, hey, here is a way that I can get to my readers directly without going through editors and waiting months sometimes for an acceptance or a rejection letter. And what I discovered, of course, was that when you put stuff up on the internet, people do not find you. And so it was like, well, why don't they know that I'm here? And then bit by bit, people broke the news to me that I needed to understand this thing called marketing in order for people to find me. And I'm talking about the days when there was no Facebook, no Google, no YouTube, right at the beginning, like 1999, 2000, 2001, those kind of times. So I gradually figured that out. And at some point on my journey, the penny dropped that marketing and psychotherapy actually have a lot of parallels. And what I mean by that is that in psychotherapy, what you have is a person, or in my case, it was usually families, in front of you who are in distress, some kind of emotional pain. And your job as the therapist is you've got about an hour, sometimes an hour and a half, but you've got, a little bit of time with them. And your job is to understand enough of how come they're in that pain and they can't seem to get out of it, enough to say something, which in psychotherapy is called making an intervention, that frees them, that enables them in some way to go, got it, we can take it from here. It's not necessarily going to make the problem all go away, but at least it empowers them so they can leave the room, hopefully shake your hand and say, thank you very much, we're good to go. That's kind of what the job is. And eventually I realized that in marketing, actually what we're doing is much the same, especially if you're in coaching and consulting, but actually in any business, you're always solving a problem. Your customers, your clients go online, they go to the search engines, they go to Google, YouTube, wherever, and they type in something that they hope is going to solve their problem. And I'm going to come back to that point in a minute because that's really crucial. And so if your marketing matches their problem, they feel like you're speaking to them. It's like, oh, that man or woman gets me, they understand me. And from there, you can then take it to, and this is how I will help you. And that's the sequence that marketing has to go in. So once I got that figured out, well, not immediately because I hired a coach. I'm going back to like 2014. I eventually did discover that if you get the marketing right, I went from selling a course that I'd written, which was actually for writers, believe it or not. I wrote it in 2010. Brilliant, absolutely brilliant. Put it up online in 2010. I had the domain, I had the graphics, I had the whole thing. It sold precisely none. I couldn't sell it at all, and it hurt because I'd spent a lot of time invested in creating this thing, and then eventually, of course, got over it. 4 years later, I hired a coach, and he looked at that product and he said, "Why aren't you selling this? It's brilliant." And I said, "No, forget it. It doesn't sell." And he said, "No, it will." And he showed me how to change the marketing message. And we relaunched it. Didn't change a single word of the product. We relaunched that product and it sold 148 copies in 3 days. And on the back of that, that little flurry of sales, I then went on to make $4,000 in the next 3 weeks from clients who booked me to coach them on that subject. So that's the power of marketing when you get it right. And it was done as a micro niche. That's exactly how it was done. And I had tried to hit a broad brush. I just went for authors. And my coach said, no, let's go for one tiny angle. And we went for, at the time, we went for Kindle writers because everybody wanted to make a killing on Kindle back around 2013, 14. So yeah, I've always been fascinated by what makes us tick. And so I found this crossover between psychotherapy and marketing. I think that's enough about me. So what I want to do is, I've told you about Fords and Bugattis. I want to talk to you about this thing I've called micro niches. Now, first of all, again, if you think about the global car market, let's talk about the Fords and Bugattis for a second. So we know that Ford sold about 4 million cars, Bugatti sold fewer than 200. I have no idea how much the global car market is, but let's say it's 100 million people at any given time. That's probably very conservative, it's probably billions. But anyway, so that's a vast number of people. Even if it was 10 million, even if it was 1 million, which it clearly isn't, it would still be vast. So with a micro niche, if you're Bugatti, you only need a tiny, tiny fraction of a fraction of that market to make a killing. Now, what I want to show you, I did a bit of research. I went online and I thought, okay, this is how, let's look at, I'm in the coaching world. I believe that many, if not all of you are in the coaching world as well. I'm sure you'll tell me if you're in some other world. But I think this will illustrate what I'm about to show you, the point very clearly. So we're going to look at Rebecca versus Sharon. Now, if you are Rebecca or Sharon, please, I hope you're okay with what I'm about to do, but your websites are in the public domain. So both of these women, and I only picked on them because they came up on the first page of Google. I'll show you in a minute. That's the only reason. So what I did was I went to Google and I simply typed in life coach near me. That's all I did. And there are a few adverts and some directories. And then I found Rebecca. Now, I realized that image is too, actually I might be able to zoom in on it a bit. But Rebecca has, she's doing something that a lot of people think is right. And I'm not going to refute that. She is on the right lines because what she's done, let me see if I can just zoom in on this a bit for you, if you will. No, it doesn't want to play. Oh, no, that's not the right one. Look at this one. Oh, there we go. But then it becomes blurred. But she's saying there is a new way to a happy working life. And she's saying that she is a spiritual career coach for people in midlife at a crossroads in their career. So she has done, yes, I've put the quote here from her website, supporting midlife professionals who are at a crossroads. So she's picked what looks like a micro niche, but just look at some statistics here, right? So as you can see, this is my search. I took a screen grab. Life coach near me, just happens to be my geographical location. She comes up. Now, where I've put the arrow, these statistics, okay? That particular page actually gets 0 traffic. This is from a little plugin, a Google extension actually called Keywords Everywhere, which is just a brilliant little thing. But Keywords Everywhere is telling us that her entire site is getting 220 organic visitors a month. And this statistic over here, where it says KW, and it does say in brackets US, so these are both American statistics, not global, tells us that that site ranks for, the site, not the page, the whole site ranks for 12 keywords. Now, I then did some more checking, and in fact, there is a keyword that she ranks for on page 1, and it's this one: words of encouragement for someone waiting for test results. Now, she happens to rank for that because she wrote a blog post with that title, and it ranks on page 1. Now, I imagine it ranks on page 1, and forgive me, Rebecca, but I imagine it ranks on page 1 for that because nobody else has ever typed that in. That's the keyword she ranks number 1 for. So how many people do you think are going to find her? Now, the other thing I want you to think about Rebecca is, in order to even find Rebecca, you have to type in something like life coach, in my case, near me, or you might type in, I suppose you might type in career coach. I think it's unlikely that you'd type in midlife professional or midlife professional at a crossroads. I don't think you'd type that in. Most people don't think that way. But more importantly, you would have to be, if you're put yourself in the client's shoes or the prospective client's shoes. That's the way to think about marketing. If you're that person and let's say you are in midlife and you are undecided or at a crossroads in some way about your career, what might you type in? You're not going to type in, find me a spiritual career coach. I really don't think you would. You would probably type in how to make the right decision about changing career in midlife, or something like that. You would type in a version of the problem the way it is in your head. Because in order to search for the coach, you have to have self-diagnosed the problem and come up in your own mind with, I think the solution would be if I hired a coach who specializes in this kind of thing. Then you would search. So if you had, I don't know, a medical problem, let's suppose that you had, I don't know, painful knee, then you might type in knee surgeons near me. Then you might, or doctors near me. I guess you might then, because then you would have said, I need a doctor, I need an ambulance. You know, if that's that bad, you wouldn't go to Google and do that, you just jump on the phone. But you see what I mean? In order to look for the what she does, you'd have to get that she is the solution, or at least think that she might be. The distinction I want you to make, and you can write this down, is between the result and the vehicle. The result is, if you're her kind of customer, the result is you want to be able to make a clear and certain and comfortable decision about what to do next with your career in midlife. That's the result that I guess kind of she's offering. Okay? The vehicle, you don't really care if that's bothering you so much, it's keeping you awake at night, it breaks you out in a cold sweat, you can't think about anything else. You don't really care whether it comes wrapped in a newspaper or down the chimney with Santa, do you? Do you see what I mean? You only care about, how do I fix the problem? I want the result. I don't care what the vehicle is. So let's have a look at Sharon, and you'll see what I mean. Now, what I didn't know I was going to find Sharon, okay? I went to Google again, and I just thought, oh, what kind of a problem, what might be a problem that's bothering people? Okay, so I typed in this, how to get over a painful childhood. Now, I found Sharon. You can see her website's called livewellwithsharonmartin.com. Okay. Now, her website has 33.9 thousand visitors a month. And she ranks, that website ranks for 4,617 keywords. Let's just go back to Rebecca and compare. She's getting 220 traffic a month, and she ranks for 12 keywords. Sharon, 33, nearly 34,000 visitors a month, and ranking for over 4,500 keywords. Now, I didn't check her whole site, and I didn't check that entire list of 4,600 keywords either. I'm not interested in that. What I want you to see is that this is the kind of thing that people will do. Now, if you think, oh God, what happened to me in my childhood, really limits me, it affects my life, it means whatever it means to you. It means I self-sabotage, I can't get promoted, or I can't stay in a relationship, or it's bothering my life to such a degree that I have to get it fixed. then that's what you're going to go to the search engine and type in. Not, is there a childhood trauma coach out there, right? So Sharon has written this post called "Shouldn't Obey Over My Painful Childhood" by now. She's written lots of others. I'm sure that website's big, it's got lots of pages. But if that's you want to click on that because she's talking to you and your problem. She doesn't say, hey, I'm a coach who specializes in helping people get over painful childhood experiences or traumas. You don't go to Google and type in childhood trauma coach unless you really, really have already gone so far down the road, or somebody or enough somebodies have said to you, hey, you need a childhood trauma coach. They would fix you. I didn't even know there was such a thing, you would say, probably. I don't even know if there is such a thing either. But I found Sharon, and I found her easily. If that was me, I would want to explore more about Sharon, wouldn't you? Okay, so Rebecca and most of the coaches and the therapists and the hypnotherapists and NLP practitioners that I come across and work with do the same thing, right? In fact, I was talking to a hypnotherapist just earlier today, and she agreed with me that most hypnotherapists have on their website, amongst other things, but have on their website, I can help you with anxiety, right? That's not a niche. It's not even a market. Anxiety about what? What to have for dinner tonight? Or public speaking? Or, anxiety could be a multitude of things. So many things. Fear of flying or fear of asking for a date. Right? So if you go on to, if you type in hypnotherapist near me, I can pretty much assure you, even though I don't know where you are, that wherever you are, you go to the first 10 websites that come up. You might find an exceptional one. Sometimes I do, but most of them will say, I can give you a better life. I'll help you overcome anxiety. I'll help you lose weight. I'll help you break bad habits. I'll help you with addiction problems. They're all vanilla. They're all exactly the same. So how is the customer going to choose? They all live within a 5 or 10 mile radius of you. And anyway, in this day and age, especially, COVID generation, we're probably going to work on Zoom anyway. So it doesn't even matter if they're near you. If they're all saying the same, how's the customer supposed to pick you out of the crowd? By focusing in on a micro niche. Now, here's the resistance that comes up. Oh, hello, somebody. The resistance that comes up is, but I can do so many things. I can solve so many problems. And I'm not saying you have to give all the rest of it up. I'm saying put your flag in one space and own it. Take it to, own it. Be the owner of that space. I'm the person who does this. I'm the man or the woman or the gentleman or the lady who specializes in this. Oh yes, and by the way, I can do that and that and that. You'll get known. You'll get. People will say, well, can you do this as well? Yes, I do help with weight loss, but I can also help you quit smoking or whatever, right? But start with a micro niche, because in terms of promoting your business and getting known, that's the only way you're going to start out from the crowd. So what should the micro niche be? Well, I can't tell you that because I'm not you. But as a guideline, as a rule of thumb, I would say it needs to be an intersection of something you're passionate about, something you already know and feel comfortable. If somebody stopped you in the street or just had a beer or a coffee with you and said, hey, can you just help me I'm struggling with this, and you would just say, yeah, I know all about that. And insight, because that's when you've had a few aha moments, when I got through that. I got through that. I was faced with that problem, and I went, oh, hang on a minute, what if I do this, or whether it came to you or was given to you, or however you got through it, those will always help, because that will inform what you teach and how you deliver the answer. That will make you stand out from the crowd. And the other thing that makes you stand out from the crowd, by the way, in case you're worried, like, oh, I don't think I know anything like that, is you. If you make yourself look vanilla by saying the same things as everybody else does on the website, then you don't stand out from the crowd. Your story stands out from the crowd. And that's why I put here, you are perfect as you are. People say, yeah, but I've got a funny accent, or I come from, I don't know, some sort of different background, or I haven't got the credentials. That's the imposter syndrome thing. That's such a classic. It's like, if you can safely get me from A to B and deliver me to the doorstep of B, I'm not going to ask you if you've got a certificate on the wall, or did you do a course, am I? Nobody cares about that. I need to put a caveat around that. Obviously, if you're doing something like being a medical doctor or a brain surgeon, yeah, I would care. I'm not going to let you do brain surgery on me or anybody I love unless you have been through the proper training. But with the kind of things that we're doing, generally, no, you don't. And I just want to quickly say something about why people fail at this. Partly it's because what I've already mentioned. Partly it's because they try to be all things to all people. And that's always a big mistake. It's often been said in marketing, if you try to be all things to everybody, you end up being nothing to anybody. And it's really, really true. And trust me, I made the mistake. I come from the background, as I told you, of psychotherapy. I did Tony Robbins Mastery University about 20 years ago. I came through all that and thought, hey, the internet's here. I'm gonna help people. And so I put up websites or whatever I could manage at the time that said, I can show you how to be successful. I can show you how to be happy. Nobody came. And I was really puzzled by it to begin with, because I thought, doesn't everybody want to be successful and happy? They do, but that's not how they think. That's not how we think. It's like, why can't I get my business off the ground? Or why am I too shy to date hot women or hot men or whatever it is? That's how we think. Those are the problems that we want solved. Not, I don't think I'm a successful person, or I'm just such an unhappy person, I want to know how to be happy. We don't think like that. You've got to meet people where they are in their heads. And then they'll go, oh, you're talking to me. And then you've got their attention. So why people fail, other people's blueprints. Now this is a kind of a big one and a tricky one to navigate through. So listen up. What happens is, if you're anything like me, you've done this. I bought, I was going to say dozens, but probably hundreds over the years of business models, courses, and some of them are absolute junk, the get rich quick, press this button and your computer will spew out money things. I bought a few of those to my shame and chagrin at the time, thinking that somebody really had figured that out. But later I learned to get more sophisticated, and I actually bought courses and programs, and I still do, by the way, but I used to buy them endlessly, think, oh, that one didn't work, so I'll buy another one. And the promise of the course or the program is follow my steps, A, B, C, D, and you will get the result I got, which is E, and that's success and money. And you follow their steps as well as you can. And I did do that I didn't let them all just languish on my hard drive. Some did, but with many, I followed the steps. I bought the course, I thought, I'm going to get my money's worth. And I did not get the same results that they got. And eventually I figured out that the reason I didn't get the same results that they got is because I'm not them. And neither are you. Because in order to get A, B, C, D, they zigzagged a lot. They went A, F, M, Z, J, B. Do you see what I mean? And then all those other letters in between don't work. B is best. So now we'll do B. Right? They zigzagged along. And what came out at the end had their stamp on it. It's about personality. Now, I'm not saying, and this is why this is difficult to put into words, I'm not saying throw the baby out with the bathwater. I'm not saying never, ever, ever again learn from anybody else. Of course not. That's ridiculous. We always learn from other people all the time. But be very discerning. Pick the ones that really, really speak to you. And also, when you do check them out, if you do buy courses, books, whatever it is, check out, can I adapt this so that it feels comfortable to me, not just for my market, but for me to actually put out there into the world? Because I remember quite a lot of them, I'd buy them, and then I'd look at the actual content and think, yeah, but this person is a nice person, but from a completely different background and culture, maybe an American kind of with a big redneck kind of personality. That's not me. I'm a British guy with a strange accent, and my customers don't expect me to talk that way to them or present them with that kind of a model or whatever it was I was supposed to do. So you've got to make it yours. So other people's blueprints, just be discerning. I'm not saying never use them, but pick the ones that people have really seem to know their stuff, know their pedigree, and ask yourself, do I feel comfortable with this person, learning from this person? Can I adapt what they're teaching me to my way of doing things? The other reasons that people fail, that there are more, but these are the big ones, and these two go together, these two P's: perfectionism and procrastination. I've got to get it, especially if you're launching something like a course, a high-ticket course or a coaching program. So easy to say, yeah, but I have to get all my ducks in a row, and I have to know what is. So instead of launching it, you procrastinate and go, wait a minute, I need to check that I've got that right, and I need to. I'll just, maybe I'll do a bit more research on module 3. I don't think that goes there, right? And so that becomes procrastination, which then turns into more perfectionism, and this just becomes a vicious circle. And what's going on while you're not launching your program or product or putting your new idea out there is that the market and marketing itself are moving on. And so by the time you are ready to catch up, it's like, oh, now there's another platform I should know about. Now people are going to TikTok and watching these 30-second reels instead of YouTube and watching 30-minute videos. Oh, blast, I better learn TikTok then. Right? And then by the time you've learned that, something else has come along. Right? So take imperfect action and talk to your market. Talk to your market, the targeted micro-niched market. Okay. So I'm going to move over, and I'm not going to spend so much time on this side of the mind map, but this side of the mind map is about how do you actually find these micro niches, because I thought you might like to just get some ideas about how I at least do the looking and the searching and the kind of thinking that goes behind it. So I've put here the pain point is not enough. Most of us, if you know anything about marketing, is like, what's the pain point, right? But this is kind of important. Where are they on the journey? Because if the pain point is, let's say that the problem is, I don't know, they've got a puppy that pees on the carpet, right? Puppies do that. You are not going to sell them coaching or a $2,000 course or whatever because they got a puppy that pees on the carpet. What are they going to do? They're going to go to YouTube or Google and type in how to stop my puppy peeing on the carpet. They're not going to look for a puppy pee coach, are they? Right? So that's not a desperate enough problem. But if time goes on, the dog, starts to grow up and it's still incontinent in the house, even though they've done all the training and what have you, then it's going to become a bigger problem. And what they might do then is go, well, maybe we should take the dog to a specialist, take it to the vet, or maybe they buy a book or a course about, how to train a grown-up dog, to house train a grown-up dog, let's say that. I don't even have a dog. I don't know why I picked that example. So now they'll spend, $50, $100 on a course or a book or something like that. And it still doesn't work. Now, a couple of years in, the dog still does it from time to time. They can't trust the dog. The dog's ruining their furniture, ruining their upholstery. People won't come to the house because it stinks, etc. It's ruining their lives. Now, if they find a website that says guaranteed to stop a grown-up dog being, incontinent in the house within 7 days or whatever it says, and the cost is whatever, who cares about the cost? They love the dog. They want to keep the dog, still got a young dog, but can't have it peeing on the carpet. Now they'll pay a lot of money. So there's an anatomy of a problem. Now, I know that's a kind of a silly example, but it happens with everything. I'm going to tell you a real example, which is, I wish this lady was my client. She isn't. But I was told about her recently. I don't know her name. but I can tell you what her market is, because it'll blow your mind. It blew my mind when I found out what her market is. Now, this woman is selling multiple copies of a course at $1,000 each. And the topic is, you ready? Drum roll. How to organize your photos on your smartphone. $1,000. Now, that information is available for free, probably available on your smartphone itself, and it's available easily on YouTube for free. So why is she selling, or how come she's selling lots of these courses at $1,000? It's because she figured out that the micro niche that wants that information is the gray market. People who grew up with, cameras with film in it that you took to the chemist and got the photos developed and you stuck them in an album. Now they've got phones that they use as cameras, but when they want to find the pictures of the children, the grandchildren, the holiday in Greece or whatever, they don't know how to find them. And so going to YouTube is just more technology for them. So I don't know what the marketing is. I haven't, but I know about this lady, and I know she's making a lot of money selling these courses for people who probably are aware that they could go to YouTube, but they'd rather have a live human being who will talk them through it. And they paid her $1,000 and everybody's happy. So there's always a market. Sometimes it's the problem. Sometimes it's the avatar, the actual, the niche, the part of the market itself, the audience itself. That's the word I'm hunting for. Sometimes it's a combination of both. There's a balance there, but you've got to think, where are they on their journey? Because if they're right at the beginning of the problem, they're just looking for free information and they're going to find it because there's, megatons of it out here, right? Also, why is now? What's the urgency? Why do they want this fixed now? I had a prospect a year or so ago now, prospective client, who I think was probably a millionaire. He didn't exactly say that on the call, but he was clearly very nonplussed about money. Told me that he'd created and sold multiple businesses in his lifetime, and he had a course that he wanted me to help bring to market. And I said, well, how much do you want to make from it? And he said, oh, I don't care about that. And I knew then, instantly, he was never going to become a client. He said, and all he was going to do was just phone lots of business coaches until he got someone that was, thought he could deliver what they wanted. All he wanted was a quote. And I said, no, it doesn't work that way. I thought you wanted to, work with me now. And he went, no, it doesn't matter. I just wondered if, I've got this idea, I've created the course, and but it's a hobby. He wasn't interested in buying. So there's got to be an urgency as well. It's got to be something that's life-changing. So what I put here is, what's your story? And I mentioned that when we were on the other side of the mind map as well, because everybody has a story. Think about the hero's journey. Every movie that we go to see has a protagonist who's struggling against some kind of difficulty. And we love that story. That's a universal global plot, which Disney is now kind of almost owned. But it's not just Disney. All good stories follow that. Because can you imagine how many people would pay to go and see a movie or a play where everything was all right all of the time and, everybody's happy from the beginning to the end? There's no story there. We want to see the challenge, the struggle, and how we broke through. And you've had them and I've had them. So if you are able to identify, like, yeah, I broke through, I had that insight, I had that that adventure, let's call it that, and I overcame it. Maybe you disagree with some common wisdoms. Like everybody says zig, but I went zag and it worked. If you've got that, you're going to be, you'll really stand out from the crowd. If you can say, you probably tried all the things going out there, forget the common wisdom, I'll show you a different way, and you'll get a result in double quick time. The Frank Abagnale principle, I think I've spelled his name right, I'm always spelling that wrong. Frank Abagnale, as far as I know, is still alive. He's a real person, and he was the subject of the movie Catch Me If You Can, starring Leonardo DiCaprio. And Frank Abagnale became infamous. He's considered a decent citizen now, But he became infamous as a young man because he managed to get himself jobs, including things like airline pilot and a medical job. I think he became a doctor or surgeon of some kind, when he wasn't qualified at all to do any of them. But the reason I put his name there, I'm not suggesting that you do that, by the way, but the reason I put his name there is because one of the things that he did was he inveigled himself into a university as a professor, I believe it was of sociology, and he kept that job for 2 years before somebody rumbled him. And when he was asked, how did you do that? How did you don't know sociology? He said, well, I only had to read one more chapter than the students. And you can do that too. Don't get caught up in this imposter syndrome of I don't know enough. You always know more than somebody who's coming up behind you. So very quickly, will they pay? Yes, they will. If they're far enough down that journey with the problem, they're going to pay. They don't care about the money. Well, they care a bit, but they're going to pay. Not at the beginning, but later on. Keep the result clear and desirable. I will stop your dog peeing on the carpet. And by the way, I'll also house train them to sit and catch a ball in midair. Keep it clear, desirable, preferably measurable as well. Make it stand out from the crowd, partly by going through what they've tried before. And remember, you only need a tiny difference from what all the others are saying. It could be the speed that you can deliver it at. Do it in a week when other people are taking a month. Maybe you know a shortcut, and give your own system and method some kind of name, even if it is very similar to other people's. You don't have to reinvent the wheel, but just put a different tire on it. All right. Don't overstuff with content. They just want one result. They just want to get from A to B. So where to look for micro niches very quickly. Here are my favorite places for going. I go to start with yourself, your own story. Talked about that. Previous version of yourself is often the very best place to look. Like, oh, I did that. And then go and research how other people type that into the search engines. Amazon bestsellers, love that. Go to find the books that are best selling in your topic and check out the 3-star reviews. There's a real pro tip there, because 3-star reviews are generally the ones that say it was good, but, and if you can see what the but is, like, I could fix that. It was repetitive, or it went over material that I've heard before. I wanted it to tell me blah, blah, blah. Occasionally you'll find some gems there. YouTube, go to the top channels on your subject and you can filter by most popular. And then you'll see where the most traffic is going. What are the subjects that people are clicking on? Go to the channels, click on the channel itself, and then filter by most popular, and you'll see the videos that are getting the most traffic. Quora.com has high trafficked answers. Look for those. You want to find the questions that have got lots and lots and lots of I can't remember what they call this, a thumbs up on Quora, but they give it like an up arrow, I think. And lots of responses, because you know that there's traffic. There's traffic there. Same with Facebook groups. Obviously, you can't spam in Facebook groups unless it's your own group, and then you can promote whatever you like. But posts with many comments, that's the place to start conversations. If the posts are relevant to what you're offering and your market, then get involved in the conversation and start showing that you've got something of value. So those are just a few of the places that I would say Amazon and YouTube are my favorites for doing that. And so I'm going to wrap this up before we go to the Q&A just by saying, if you would like to get in touch with me, book a call with me. It's free. I don't do any pushy kind of sales talk. I don't believe in that. So I don't know if we're going to end up working together, that's something that will emerge from the conversation. But if you would like help finding your micro niche or finding the gold nugget that's in the idea that you've got, I'm happy to help you do that. Book a free call with me. And the website, the link to go to is trevoremdon.com. That's EMDON, trevoremdon.com/simple ideas. And you can just book a call with me there.
I think we've had enough. I know we haven't. We just wanted to bring it out there. We haven't had enough, but it was really a lot of fun and lots of bulb on moments. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much as well. Thank you all.
Bye for now.